Welcome back to the channel. I've been working on this for days, only to realize that I muted most of the video. Enjoy. And what I've been working on is replacing this instrument cluster. Well, at least the circuit board on the back of it. Now, the problem I've been having is that I don't have any illumination on this entire left half, and I don't have any ignition power to the oil pressure or the temperature gauge. Now, I replaced the coolant temperature sending unit and the oil pressure sending unit. And the coolant temperature sending unit is this guy right here next to the distributor. That's an 11/16. And the one for the oil pressure gauge is down here next to the filter. Hopefully we can see this. Getting there. There it is. That guy right there. And you do need the special little oil sending unit socket or wrench to get to that one. And I still didn't have anything. So I went on the eBay, of course, even though it did bite me on fuel injectors. So these are garbage. And I got a used instrument cluster, or at least circuit board, for the back side of this. And now I have oil pressure, but still no temperature. And I have all the lights now. So it's an improvement, but I still don't have a temperature gauge. What you're gonna see here is me taking this entire cluster apart, putting it back together. All right, well, I'll narrate what I can, and some of it did have volume, so here we go. First thing you got to do is you have to take these little trim pieces off of each side of that instrument bezel. There is a torque screw behind each one of them. And this torque screw is a T20, and it's located right in the center of the bezel behind that trim piece. And again, one on this side and one on the other side. After that, we need to take the knob off of this headlight switch, pull it all the way out, and there's a slot back there and a little clip you have to push down with a screwdriver or pick. Don't forget to push the switch back in after you take the knob off so your battery doesn't die. If you have an automatic, you're going to have to put it down in a first gear to get this bezel off. Like that. Now you should be able to pull this bezel out far enough to disconnect the fuel tank selector switch, which has a big connector on the back side here to the left of the steering wheel. That's it right there. After that, this bezel should pull right off, no problem whatsoever. Up next, there's 4 screws that hold this cluster in. One right here, top left, bottom right, and top right. They are all T20s. Let's take those out, and then we'll be able to move to the next step. And that next step is taking off this lower trim panel. There's 2 T20 torque screws, one on each corner, and there's 4 clips up top. It'll pop right out. And you need to do that. Let me move those keys. Well, both keys. And you remove that panel just to get to your shift selector cable, which is right here, and it's held in by a little 5.5mm screw. And once you've got that screw removed, there's a little wire with a loop that connects up to the shifter on the column, and you can usually just get that off with your finger and then pull this cable down and out of the way. Something similar to, oh, that right there. Ta-da! After that, you'll be able to rotate this cluster upwards so you can get to these electrical connectors. There's one right there on the right side, one on the left side, and there's one right in the middle for the speedometer that you can't really see no matter what you do. Once you've got those 3 electrical connections taken off, this instrument cluster is now free, and we can take it into the garage, put it on the workbench, and I can stop doing voiceovers, at least for now. And all these smaller ones are T15s. All right, now take that off and carefully put that somewhere where it's not going to get scratched. You're not going to break it, but you don't want to scratch it. Bezel is 2 more torque screws. Go, set that to the side. We are going to have to take the Prindle indicator out too, and that is a couple of very small screws, which are slip joint sized. Weird, these are all standard. There we go. Just fish that out. Set that to the side as well. Everything's getting set to the side. Now, there should be nothing holding these gauges in. There we go. Don't set these gauges face down. Set them face up. They can rest on these little terminals. They'll be fine. Yep, and then tack, if you have it, is next. If you don't have a tack, it's going to be whatever is on this side. Go. Now, speedometer, yes. All right. That's all there is to it. Now, the problem I was having was no instrument panel lights on this side, despite changing the bulbs, and I didn't have any power to my oil pressure or my temp gauge. If you look, this whole side, see how that's brown in there? That is either corrosion or that has already shorted across. It should be a nice light orange color with identifiable lines like this going to everything. And this one is decidedly not. Now, Ford made several different designs, so you want to make sure you get the right one. There is a part number up top here that you can match up when you're searching for it online. This one happens to be F5TF10C956-B. And I searched and found that exact one. And we'll just make sure everything's here. 552211. One up top, 131. Got a horizontal connector, a vertical connector, and hole for the speedometer. Then you can tell over here, what we've got is the tachometer, is these 4 terminals. Fuel gauge matches. This is temp gauge, that matches. Oil pressure, and up here is voltage. Everything looks the same, so we should be pretty good. And look how much cleaner this side is compared to this side. Yeah, that's our problem. It sat for too long. Now, all these bulbs appear to be good, so I'm going to play as if they are and not replace any of them for right now. It's probably going to bite me here in a little bit, but what are you going to do? And of course, not checking any bulbs did indeed come back to bite me. This battery-shaped light, well, there's a bulb behind it, and if that bulb is burned out, you don't have an alternator. And of course, I started it, and I had no charging. So I had to take it all back apart and replace one little bulb, and then it charged. Note to self, carry some spare 194 bulbs for that stupid alternator setup. Your speedometer just sits in there gently like that. Tack. Perfect. Fuely fuels and volts. Good. There we go. Now everything is just going to go back together, and we'll come back once this thing is plugged in the truck to see if these gauges work. And here is the result. Oil pressure, no temperature. 50% better than it was. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.